Let's talk about solo guitar today. But instead of speaking right away, I'm going to play for you, and then I'll go back and talk about some of the devices and musical things that I did. All right. There's a tune you all should know. If you don't, you should learn it. It's called Stella by Starlight. So let's get started. Stella by Starlight. Nah, I'm way out in outer space, so give me a second to get back here. Let's talk a little bit about what went on. I mean, it was right off the top, so I'll try to remember a few of the things and tell you at least where I started. What you have to remember is the guitar is very chord oriented. So these are your best friends. And I use a lot of times fragments of the chords. Watch. Take the chord, play the two outside notes and the inside notes. Or reverse, inside, outside. So parts of the chord. Now notice when I was playing bits and pieces of the fragments, I was also using rhythmical devices. Fragments and rhythm. So you see, you don't always have to play a lot of fancy runs. Your chords are your best friends. All you have to do is get your chord vocabulary together and start breaking the chord apart, fragments I call them, or bits and pieces of the chord, and you still have all the harmony. It's all right there. The minor 7 flat 5. There's your chord, your chords, I mean, and here's your line. It's coming right out of the chord shapes. So what you need to do is start examining what you already know, not tons of books that you're not familiar with. It's all right in front of you already. It's indigenous to our guitar. And what I call them is guitar chord shapes, chord arpeggios. You grab a shape, and there's your arpeggio. Chord shape arpeggios. It has nothing to do with piano or tradition, somewhat maybe, but not enough for us to be worried about it. What we really have to do is understand where all this stuff lies on our instruments so that we can grab it. Our sense of harmony is altogether different than the pianos or the saxophones or any of those people. It's, as I said, indigenous to us. This is ours. If you go to play it on the piano, it sounds different. So we have to start looking at all these nice, great little things that we have and use them. So what you do is, let's start. How does it begin? Okay, it begins with the melody. All right, and the melody should ring. It shouldn't be. Let it ring out. Let it be heard, because once it's heard, it conveys to the people who are listening. That's the important thing. You're playing for the people. Let them hear Stella and let the sound ring. All I'm doing is wavering the note, pushing it out of tune a little bit. That's what the vibrato is. Then I add the chord. Then I add the fill. Getting back to the melody again. Melody, fill. Melody, chord, fill. There's the melody, there's the chord, melody, fill, melody, parts of the chord, just two notes. Melody and chord, fill. I'm always getting back to the melody. Melody. You're always playing the melody. No matter what you do, you're always designing your chords and your lines to fit with the melody. Now, this takes time to do. I mean, when you first start doing it, man, it's going to come out all different ways. But that's no big thing. You just keep going straight ahead. If I told you how long it took me to learn how to do this, come on. You see the gray, don't you? So, all right. You need to keep doing it all your life. Now, the melody, the chord, the fill, it's not always possible to play them in that sequence. There are some times when all you can do is play the melody and you don't have time for a chord. So that's no big deal. You just play the melody. Remember, once again, the melody is your best friends. You have all your best friends located in this, what is that, a yard or two? Not a yard, 2 yards, but it's however long it is. One day I'm going to find out. So what's 2 feet? Okay, my wife just said it was 2 feet. So if anything goes wrong, you're going to have to blame her now. So what you're doing is you're supposed to be having fun here somewhere along the line. So you pick a tune you like, and you start simply with the melody, like I just demonstrated. And then you play the fill like I just demonstrated, a chord, and then the fill. Now let's take another approach. Let's play some melody with some lines moving. Watch. Melody. Now. What did I do? I played the melody, and then I got a second away from it. I played the A and then the G right behind it, and I start lowering the G, and I can stop any place I want. Usually you stop on something that sounds pleasant, like. Now you can stop in stranger places. You can do. But of course, that's a whole different sound, and if you want it, fine. The idea is that it's available to you. Just simple seconds moving down. You start with the second. Okay. Of course, you don't do it every second. You have to break it up. Like, say, for instance, we'll do the fragments in the seconds. Watch. Frags. Seconds. Frags. Frags. Seconds. So that's two devices you got going for you right now. We haven't even played a lick. You got your fragments, and you got the little counterpoints or the little passing notes underneath it. That's two things. Now, let's add some rhythm to it, okay? So, what you're doing is you're adding the rhythm now. Your rhythm is important because that's what makes everything push ahead. Try to remember that your upbeats, whether you're playing lines, whether you're comping, or whether you're doing these little things that I'm showing you now, are important. Like, watch. Comping. That was a bit of comping, and notice that the comping doesn't just go 1, 2, 3, 4 and a few little broken rhythms. It's like on the upbeat a lot because your upbeat is pushes it. Watch up. I call that the snap, crackle, and pop effect. That's what a black guy told me long ago. He says, "Man, it's got to have snap, crackle, and pop in it." So let it pop. And try the voice lead. So you can get the idea. By listening to the tape over and over again, you'll start to feel how you can use melody notes going in a nice, smooth, somehow, some way, musical direction that gives you a lot of nice, pretty lines while you're playing your comp. You know. Now, don't think as the comp so much just as the comp. That could have been part of your solo. You know, you could have played a few lines, did a few things, and then just start playing comp, and that just sounds like it's pushing everything. So you got to remember that solo guitar takes a lot of things probably that you never takes in a lot of things probably that you never thought about before. Comping is part of the solo device as far as I'm concerned. Bass lines are part of the solo device as far as I'm concerned. You know, I dropped my pick, so you're going to have to wait a second. Oh, comping. You see, comping is part of the solo device too. And so on. So also bass lines are part of it, or just say quarter notes. You don't even have to think of it as bass lines. You want to think of everything as one complete salad, so to speak. Everything's in there and it just tastes great. Like, say for instance, we're playing, and I'm going to play some bass lines. Wow. Yeah, the bass line. So you can see where it can take you. You start playing it, next thing you know, you're into another place in space. Don't think so much. Let it happen. Let it go where it wants to go. The bass line can start taking you into different lines, melodic lines, far out lines. Doesn't make any difference. Just let it happen. Just play all day quarter notes and see what happens. What do you got to lose? 8 hours, and you'll find incredible things. So let's go back and review a little bit, huh? Melody. Let's take it in another place. I'm tired of playing it over here, all right? Let it ring. Chord. Let me tell you what got me into solo guitar, by the way. This is what you should understand. First of all, I think the highest level of playing is solo guitar. Solo, any solo, whether you're a saxophone, a flute, a piano, when you can play all by yourself and you're self-sufficient, you are strong. So this is the idea, is to become as strong as you can. One day I walked out of the front door of my house, and the lady to the right was having a garage sale. So I said to my wife, let's go and see, because I'm always looking for maybe an old Ramirez for about 25 bucks, you know, classical guitar that somebody just doesn't know what they have. Well, in the meantime, I didn't find the Ramirez, but I found something equally as great. I found 5 Art Tatum records for $1 each. What a find. Because I start playing these records, and I start thinking to myself, wow, he was playing solo, by the way. I thought to myself, my God, this is great. Imagine if a guitar player could play like that. So Art Tatum is the one that started me thinking about playing solo guitar. And especially with the fast runs and all the incredible dexterity and technicality that he could play with, and musicality mainly. But so I began to think about how that would relate to the guitar. So what you have to do is, when you hear something, you have to reduce it back into your head, thinking, how's that going to sound on my instrument? When you hear a saxophone playing a line, you say to yourself, well, is that possible? Is it feasible? Well, maybe I might have to take out some things. Or when you hear a person like Art Tatum play, you say, well, what can I use? What can I use? Bill Evans, Keith Jarrett, Herbie Hancock. If you're not listening to those people, my darlings, you better go and get those records right now, because That is the state of art. It's been that way for as long as these guys have been playing. They're teaching us the way. Plus, my beloved Joe Pass, one of the great solo guitar players. And Joe told me one of the greatest things I ever heard. I asked him one time, Joe, when you play your solos, do you have everything memorized? I mean, do you know where you're going with the chords? And he just said, no. He says, I play everything off the top of my head. I play everything off of the top of my head. Those words changed my life. Because the minute I start hearing Joe Pass play and I start listening again, I noticed that everything he did was off the top of his head. So if you rehearse too much, you may forget the second chord. That's what he told me. He says, what if you got it all memorized and you forget the second chord? What do? You panic. So you have to play them off the top of your head. Get used to that. The more you play them off the top of your head, the easier it becomes. So when I play, what I play today has been from the top of my head. I didn't think about it. What came out, came out. I mean, you heard things that were flubs kind of, but you make them work. And even if they don't work, you never stop. You just keep going because it's history. Once you hit it and it's gone, it's gone. So don't get discouraged. I remember in the old days, back before Joe told me this, I'd hit something and I'd go, oh man, I missed the chord. Oh man, the wrong note and everything. And you start going down because you're getting negative. After that, I started to think, hey man, so what? Whatever happens, happens. So it was a very good lesson. And I'm passing it on to you. And I hope you remember that the sooner you start playing them from your intuition, from the top of your head, from the bottom of your soul, the quicker it's going to be. And say, for instance, you're playing and you're having trouble thinking about what to do, what to play. I shouldn't say think because I don't want you to think. I just want you to play your melody. That's all. Just start playing melody. Start playing the melody so that the melody is improvised. So it sounds like this. Keep going. Rhythm. Keep it pushing. Sometimes you end on a chord that's not even related to the key. Drama, my darlings. We're talking drama, Broadway. You see, so that's what music's about. It's about all this emotion, this passion, and these creative ideas. Just let them flow out of you. Remember that the creative pool is there. You don't have to work to be creative. You are creative already. You just have to start understanding this instrument so that you can let that creativeness out. And everybody understands it a different way. Some people play by ear and they get it out. Some people study out of books and get it out. No matter how you do, you have to get it out. You have to polish it, just like a pair of shoes. You keep polishing them. It's a good pair of shoes that's going to shine up good. Everybody wears sneakers today. What am I talking about? Shoes. Nobody polishes shoes anymore, but you get the idea. Are there any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was in front of an audience for a minute. Let's take another tune. See what happens. We'll play a minor tune. Everybody knows Autumn Leaves. I played in the key of G, E minor. so that you can look at your fake books or your real books. Once again, the melody. Okay, that's a little bit of autumn leaves, just a little taste of the fall. And well, when you review this tape, you'll notice over and over again so many of the devices that I spoke earlier coming up. You have to experiment with things. One of the things you should know is your intervals. Do you know the thirds? Do you know your fourths? Do you know your fifths? So on. Do you know your sixths? Do you know your sevenths? Do you know your octaves? The more you know about the instrument, the more you're able to create. Because you've discovered them and you hear them. They're somewhere back there in your mind, in your psyche, in your subconscious. So you're playing music now. You are playing all the things that music is made up of. And it no longer becomes exercises or scales, it becomes music. Because now you've learned how to use the thirds, the seconds, the sevenths, all the intervals in a very musical way. And the same thing with your chord changes. Once you learn the simple ones too. A minor. So you use them when you're soloing. It's a simple thing. It's A minor, A minor, A minor, A minor, A minor, A minor. So you use things in between. Yeah. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking the chords, the very basic chords that we all know, and I'm using them in hopefully a melodic way. Oh, another story from Joe Pass. I was playing with Joe quite a bit when we both used to work at GIT, if you could call it work. Joe would come in about 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd be in my room getting myself together, and I say, Joe, come on, let's first get a coffee and then we're going to start, you know. He'd come in my room, he'd sit down, we'd play all day. The kids would be in the room, they would be listening. And now he's supposed to be in a room teaching. So after we played all day, he turns around to them, he says, that's the lesson. That was the lesson, not only for them, but for me as well. I remember one time I was trying to play fancy changes. You know, I'd grab something like, I don't know, like this, or one of those D minor. And Joe would play something simple like almost, and I said, Joe, man, that's the simplest chord in the world. How come you want to use that one? He said, because it's easy, and it's easy to grab. And he said, I don't have to think about it. Great lesson there. So your chords don't always have to be the most fanciest chords in the world, but they have to be able to be accessible to you right away And you have to be able to make music with them. That's a great lesson. Think about that. So when you're playing and you're trying to get all these fancy chords, if there's a point sometimes when you just can't get it, get what's available. I remember Joe was playing this one time. A simple D7, the first position. I couldn't believe it. The great Joe Pass, the first position, D7. I said, why, Joe? He says, it's there, man. And that's the sound I needed, and I grabbed and I used. So I hope that some of these things that we spoke about today helped you all. Remember, solo guitar is phenomenal. I could just think of this. You can sit down any place, anywhere, and just entertain yourself or your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, whatever. You know, it depends. So you cut that out, I'm sure. But the idea is listen a lot too. By the way, like a lot of my listening comes from, a lot of my music comes from listening to piano, Bill Evans over and over again, Herbie Hancock, anything you can get of Herbie's, you know, Art Tatum, as I said, Keith Jarrett, get all the records that Keith ever played, you know, just study the intros that he does before he plays the melody, man. That's, God, that's like going to music school, you know. It'd be better than going to music school. Listen to a lot of classical guitar. Listen to Segovia. Listen to Christopher Parkening. All the greats. Just go in a store and no matter what you buy, it's going to be great because it's classical guitar and you can hear the lines moving. And that's what you have to try to imitate. When you hear the classical players playing all these counterpoint lines and all these melodic lines going, always going musically someplace, think about how that would sound when you're playing your guitar and try to imitate it. Just keep going for it. Remember, nothing comes overnight. I've been playing for a long time. I'm not going to tell you how long. I'll just tell you what's happening. I started when I was 13. I'm 65 now. So you guys figure it out. You gals too can figure it out. So it's a long time, but it takes time. What else do you have to do? You got something better to do you do it. But in the meantime, get inside these 2 feet. Thank you. Yeah, see, I'm not fooling around today. I really mean it. Ha 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 ha!